The cold winds of Earth carried dust and memories across the broken cities. Commander Zekthar stood on what once was called Manhattan, his forearms crossed as he watched his team dig through the ruins. 300 years had passed since the last human drew breath on this world. The galaxy still talked about them in whispers and legends, but nobody really knew what made humans so special. Zekthar was a Vorthak, tall and strong with blue skin that could resist most weapons. His people were warriors, but even they respected the humans who had somehow united dozens of fighting species under one banner. The Terran Alliance had lasted 200 years before the Great Silence took Earth and all its people. Now the galaxy wanted answers. Dr. Velnara, a spider-like arachnoid scientist, called out from near a collapsed building. Her 8 legs moved quickly over the broken concrete as she waved a scanner in the air. The device was beeping faster and faster as she moved toward a crack in the ground. Something was down there, something big. "Commander, we have found something unusual," she said in her clicking voice. "There are structures beneath this location that do not match human building patterns. They are much deeper and much older than the surface ruins." Zekthar walked over to examine the readings on her scanner. The numbers showed a massive complex at least 50 floors underground. The strange part was that it seemed to be generating its own power after all these centuries. Whatever the humans had built down there was still working. "Prepare the drilling equipment," Zekthar ordered. "We go down." It took 3 days to cut through the layers of rubble and metal that blocked the entrance. When they finally broke through, a soft blue light poured out of the hole. The air that escaped smelled clean and fresh, nothing like the stale atmosphere above ground. Zekthar led his team down a long ramp that curved into the earth. The walls were smooth and white, made from some material that seemed to glow with its own light. Strange symbols covered every surface, but they were not in any human language that Zekthar recognized. They looked older, more complex, like something from the first days of galactic civilization. The ramp opened into a vast chamber filled with towers of crystal and metal. Streams of light flowed between them like rivers of information. In the center of the room stood a pedestal with what looked like a human figure, made of pure energy. As the team approached, the figure began to move and speak. "Welcome, friends from the stars," the figure said in perfect galactic standard. "I am Dr. Elena Martinez, archived consciousness of the Terran Archaeological Division. I have been waiting for you." Zekthar had heard of such things but never seen one. The humans had learned to copy their minds into machines near the end, hoping to preserve some part of themselves. Most other species considered it impossible or unnatural, but humans had always pushed beyond normal limits. "You are an artificial intelligence," Zekthar said, stating the obvious. "I am what remains of a human woman who died 280 years ago," Elena replied. "My body is gone, but my memories and personality survive in this form. I was placed here to guide those who would come after." Dr. Velnara scuttled forward, her scanners active. "How many others like you exist in this place?" 8 of us remain active in this facility," Elena said. "We are the guardians of what humanity chose to leave behind. We have been maintaining this place and waiting for the right time to share our gift with the galaxy." Another figure appeared near Elena, this one male and wearing what looked like work clothes. "I'm Jake Thompson," he said with a smile. "I was a maintenance engineer topside before the end came. Been keeping the lights on down here ever since." Zekthar felt confused. If humans had this technology, why had they not used it to save themselves? Why build this underground complex instead of fleeing to the stars like every other species would have done? "We know you have questions," Elena said, reading his expression. "The answers lie deeper in the complex. But first, you must understand what you have found. This is not just a tomb or a monument. This is the Legacy Vault, and it contains something more valuable than any treasure you could imagine." The group followed Elena and Jake deeper into the facility. They passed rooms filled with strange machines that hummed with quiet energy. Some rooms contained what looked like libraries with books and data storage devices from dozens of different worlds. Others held equipment that none of the alien visitors could identify. "Your people were always collectors," Dr. Velnara observed. "But this seems excessive even for humans." "We collected more than just objects," Jake said. "We gathered stories, songs, languages, and cultures from every species we ever met. The humans believed that diversity was strength, and that knowledge should be preserved no matter what happened to those who created it." They came to a massive door marked with the same strange symbols that covered the walls. Elena placed her energy hand against a panel, and the door slid open with a sound like distant thunder. Beyond was a chamber so large that they could not see the far walls. "What you are about to see," Elena said quietly, "is what humanity chose to do with their final century of life. They knew the end was coming, but instead of trying to escape or fight the impossible, they made a different choice." Zekthar stepped through the doorway and stopped. The chamber was filled with row after row of crystalline structures, each one pulsing with its own light. But more impressive than the technology was what surrounded it. The walls were covered with artwork, writings, and cultural artifacts from hundreds of different worlds. He recognized pieces from his own homeworld that had been lost for generations. "Welcome," Elena said, "to the archive of all things. This is where humanity stored the complete cultural heritage of every species they ever encountered. But that is only the beginning of what waits here." As they walked between the crystal structures, Jake explained that each one contained the complete history, language, art, and scientific knowledge of a different civilization. The humans had spent their final years not preparing for war or searching for escape, but creating the most complete library in galactic history. "Why?" Zekthar asked. "Why spend your last days doing this instead of trying to survive?" Elena's energy form seemed to brighten slightly. "Because survival is not just about staying alive, Commander. It is about making sure that what matters most continues to exist. Humanity chose to ensure that no knowledge, no culture, no beautiful thing would ever be truly lost." The tour was just beginning, but already Zekthar understood that his team had found something unprecedented. This was not just an archaeological site, but a gift that humanity had prepared for the galaxy they would never see again. Elena led the expedition deeper into the archive of all things, while Jake worked with Dr. Velnara to activate more of the crystal storage units. Each structure contained enough information to fill a planet-sized library, but the humans had compressed it all into spaces no larger than a building. The technology was impressive, but what truly amazed Zekthar was the content itself. "This crystal contains the complete cultural record of the Zephyrian people," Elena explained as she gestured to a tall blue structure. "Every song your ancestors sang, every story they told, every piece of art they created over 5,000 years of history. The humans collected it all." A new figure materialized beside them, wearing the formal uniform of a Terran diplomat. "I am Captain Lisa Hayes," she said with a warm smile. "I was the human ambassador to the Zephyrian homeworld for 30 years. I personally recorded many of these cultural treasures with the help of Zephyrian scholars who wanted to preserve their heritage." Zekthar watched as one of his team members, a Zephyrian named Songwind, approached the crystal with trembling hands. The bird-like being placed her feathered fingers against the surface, and suddenly music filled the air. It was an ancient lullaby that Songwind's grandmother had sung to her as a child, a melody that had been lost for over 2 centuries. Tears flowed down Songwind's face as she listened to words she had forgotten. "How did they know?" she whispered. "How did the humans know that this song would be lost?" "Because they were always watching, always listening, always caring," Lisa replied. Humans had a gift for seeing what others considered unimportant. They understood that a child's lullaby might be just as valuable as a scientific discovery. The group moved to another section where crystalline structures held the records of the Nexari, a species of living crystals, who communicated through mathematical equations rather than words. Dr. Velnara was shocked to discover proofs and theorems that her people had created in their early history but had been unable to reproduce for generations. "The humans saved our mathematical heritage when we ourselves had forgotten it," she said in amazement. "They preserved knowledge that we thought was lost forever." Jake appeared beside a control panel that was covered in symbols from a dozen different languages. "The humans didn't just collect this stuff randomly," he said as he activated more displays. "They had a plan, a system for everything. Every piece of culture they saved was cross-referenced with related materials from other species. New displays lit up around the chamber, showing connections between different civilizations that nobody had realized existed. A Vorthak wore song-shared musical patterns with a Zephyrian prayer. Nexari mathematical concepts appeared in the architecture of a dozen different worlds. Art styles flowed from one species to another across centuries of contact and trade. "The humans discovered that all our cultures were connected," Elena explained. "They saw patterns that individual species missed because we were too focused on our own achievements. They realized that galactic civilization was not just a collection of separate peoples, but a single, growing, living thing. Zekthar felt his understanding of the universe shifting as he watched the displays. His own people had always prided themselves on their independence and strength, but here was proof that Vorthok culture had been influenced by dozens of other species over the millennia. Songs, stories, and ideas had flowed between worlds like rivers finding the sea. Captain Lisa activated another section of the archive, and the chamber filled with the sounds of languages that had been dead for centuries. Some of them had been spoken by species that no longer existed, victims of wars or disasters that had happened before humans ever left their homeworld. But here their words lived on, preserved by a species that had never even met them. "How did you collect the languages of extinct species?" Dr. Velnara asked. "Archaeological work mostly," Lisa replied. Humans spent incredible amounts of time and money digging through ruins and ancient databases. They sent teams to dead worlds just to recover fragments of lost languages and cultures. Other species thought it was a waste of resources, but humans believed that every voice deserved to be remembered. Jake led them to a massive display that showed the timeline of galactic civilization, but instead of focusing on wars and politics like most historical records, this one tracked the flow of cultural exchange. It showed how ideas and art forms had spread from world to world, creating a web of connection that spanned the entire galaxy. "This is what humans really understood," Jake said proudly. "Civilization isn't built by the strongest or the smartest. It's built by those who share, who connect, who bring different peoples together." Humans saw themselves as gardeners, helping cultures grow and flourish across the stars. The expedition spent hours exploring the cultural archives, but Elena eventually led them to another door, this one larger and more heavily secured than any they had seen. Strange symbols covered its surface, and multiple locks required different types of keys. Jake produced a crystal from his pocket, while Elena generated a specific light pattern with her energy form. "What lies beyond this door is the second part of humanity's gift," Elena said as the locks disengaged one by one. "The cultural archive was just the beginning. What you will see next is what humans built with the time they had left." The door opened to reveal another vast chamber, but this one was filled with machinery instead of crystals. Massive manufacturing systems stretched as far as they could see, all humming with quiet activity. Robotic arms moved with precision, while conveyor belts carried components between different stations. The air smelled of metal and electricity and progress. "These facilities have been running continuously for 300 years, Jake explained with obvious pride. "They are building something that humanity designed during their final decades, something they called the gift." Dr. Velnara's scanners went wild as she tried to analyze the machinery. "The power requirements for this operation are enormous," she said. "What could possibly be worth such an investment of resources?" A new figure appeared among the machines, wearing the clothing of a teacher or professor. "I am Ben Carter," he said in a gentle voice. "I taught xenobiology at the University of Mars before the end came. I can answer your question, but first you must understand the context." Ben led them to an observation platform that overlooked the entire manufacturing complex. From this height, they could see that the machines were not just randomly building things but following a complex pattern. Components were being assembled into larger structures, which were then combined into even larger systems. "Humans knew they were going to die," Ben said simply. "The cosmic threat that destroyed Earth was impossible to stop or escape. But humans also knew that other species would survive, and that they would face their own challenges in the future. So humanity made a choice." The group watched as completed devices emerged from the manufacturing systems and were carefully packaged for storage. Each package was labeled with symbols that matched the writing on the archive crystals. Instead of spending their final years trying to save themselves, humans decided to build a better future for everyone else, Ben continued. They used their most advanced technology and their deepest scientific knowledge to create solutions for problems that other species hadn't even discovered yet. Zekthar felt a chill run down his spine. "What kind of problems?" Ben's expression grew serious. "The same cosmic threat that destroyed humanity is still out there, Commander. It moves slowly, but it never stops. Our calculations suggest it will reach this sector of the galaxy within the next 50 years. The chamber fell silent, except for the humming of the machines. Elena appeared beside Ben and placed a comforting hand on his shoulder, even though neither of them were truly physical anymore. "But humanity found a solution," she said with quiet confidence. The gift that these machines have been building for 3 centuries is not just technology or weapons. It is hope itself, packaged in a form that the galaxy can use to survive what is coming. As if responding to her words, the machines began to work faster, and the lights in the chamber grew brighter. Whatever the gift was, it was almost ready. The manufacturing complex extended far beyond what Zekthar had first imagined. As Ben Carter led the expedition through maintenance corridors and observation decks, they discovered that the facility stretched for kilometers in every direction. Hundreds of different production lines worked on components that ranged from microscopic devices to structures the size of starships. How many facilities like this exist? Dr. Velnara asked as she tried to map the complex with her scanners. 47 across the galaxy, Ben replied. Humans built them on worlds that had been abandoned or forgotten, places where they could work without being disturbed. Each facility specializes in different aspects of the gift, but all of them have been coordinating their efforts for centuries. They reached another secure door that required even more complex unlocking procedures. Elena and Jake were joined by 2 new figures, both wearing military uniforms that looked more advanced than anything Zekthar had seen before. The male figure was tall and confident while the female appeared to be a scientist based on the equipment she carried. "I am Major Sam Rodriguez," the male figure announced, "former commander of the Terran Defense Corps Special Projects Division. And this is Dr. Kate Wilson, our chief systems engineer. We are what humanity calls the Guardians." Dr. Wilson stepped forward and activated a holographic display that showed the entire galaxy with thousands of points of light scattered across its spiral arms. "The 47 facilities are just the visible part of our network," she explained. "We also maintain monitoring stations, supply depots, and communication relays throughout known space." Zekthar studied the display with growing amazement. The network the humans had built was larger and more sophisticated than anything the current galactic government possessed. "You have been operating this system for 300 years without anyone knowing?" "Secrecy was necessary," Major Rodriguez replied. "The gift was not ready and other species were not prepared to receive it. Humanity learned long ago that giving advanced technology to unprepared civilizations usually causes more harm than good." The group passed through the secure door into a chamber that defied easy description. The walls were covered with displays showing real-time data from across the galaxy. Star charts, energy readings, gravitational measurements, and cosmic radiation levels scrolled past in constant streams, but most disturbing were the warnings that flashed red in multiple sections of the display. "The dark energy wave is accelerating," Dr. Wilson said as she manipulated the controls. "Our latest calculations suggest it will reach the core worlds in 37 years instead of 50. The timeline has moved up." Songwind fluttered her wings nervously. "What exactly is this dark energy wave?" Ben activated a 3-dimensional model that showed a section of the galaxy being consumed by something that looked like expanding darkness. "Imagine space itself becoming unstable," he said. "Matter breaks down, energy dissipates, and the laws of physics stop working normally. Anything caught in the wave simply ceases to exist." "And this is what destroyed Earth?" Zekthar asked. "Earth was just the beginning," Elena said sadly. "Humanity detected the wave decades before it arrived, but there was no way to stop it or escape it. The wave moves faster than any ship, and it covers such vast distances that there is nowhere to run." Dr. Wilson brought up another display that showed detailed technical specifications. But humans did find a theoretical solution. The wave can be stopped by creating dimensional stabilizers that anchor local spacetime and prevent the breakdown of physical laws. The technology requires exotic matter and computational power that only became available near the end of humanity's existence. Major Rodriguez gestured to the manufacturing complex visible through the chamber's windows. "The gift is a network of dimensional stabilizers designed to protect the entire galaxy. But the system has one crucial requirement that humanity built into it deliberately." "What requirement?" Dr. Velnara asked. "The stabilizers will only function if multiple species work together to activate them," Dr. Wilson explained.
"Humanity designed the system so that no single species could control it."
"The galaxy must unite or the galaxy will die." Jake appeared beside the control panels and began calling up additional data. The humans learned from watching other species that cooperation was usually temporary, unless there was a good reason to maintain it. They wanted to create a reason that would last forever. The displays showed the locations of all 47 facilities scattered across the galaxy. Each one was positioned to protect a specific region, but the network would only work if every facility was activated simultaneously. The coordination required would demand unprecedented cooperation between species that had been enemies for centuries. "This is manipulation," Zekthar said bluntly. "Humanity is forcing us to work together by threatening us with extinction." "Humanity is offering the galaxy a choice," Elena corrected. "Unite and survive or remain divided and face destruction. The dark energy wave is real and it is coming whether the stabilizers exist or not. Humanity simply provided a way out for those willing to take it." Ben led them to another section of the chamber, where a massive communication array was receiving signals from across the galaxy. "The other facilities have been monitoring galactic politics for centuries," he said. "We have detailed information about every major government, military force, and political movement currently active. The screen showed intelligence reports that would be worth fortunes to any government in the galaxy. Trade routes, military strengths, diplomatic communications, and economic data flowed past in endless streams. The humans had been watching everything while remaining completely invisible. Why gather all this intelligence if you were just going to give everything away?" Songwind asked. Dr. Wilson smiled for the first time since they had met her. "Because the gift is not just technology, it's also knowledge about how to use it effectively. Humanity spent 3 centuries studying galactic civilization and learning what would be needed to make the stabilizer network succeed. Major Rodriguez activated a new display that showed detailed psychological profiles of major galactic leaders. Humans discovered that the biggest threat to cooperation was not greed or ambition, but fear and misunderstanding. Species fought because they did not trust each other, and they did not trust each other because they did not understand each other. So we prepared solutions for that problem too," Ben added. "The cultural archives are not just historical records. They are tools for building understanding between species. When the Zephyrians realize that their music shares patterns with Vorthak war songs, they begin to see Vorthaks as people, rather than enemies." Elena gestured to the vast chamber around them. "This entire facility exists to support one goal: convincing the galaxy that cooperation is possible and necessary. The dark energy wave provides the motivation, but humanity provided everything else needed to make unity actually work." The magnitude of what humanity had accomplished was staggering. In their final centuries, they had not only designed a solution to an impossible problem, but had also created the political and cultural framework needed to implement that solution. They had turned their own extinction into the foundation for galactic civilization's survival. "When do we begin?" Zekthar asked. Dr. Wilson checked her displays and frowned. "Sooner than we hoped. The wave's acceleration means we need to start activation procedures within the next 6 months. That gives us very little time to contact the other facilities and begin the diplomatic process." "The diplomatic process?" Dr. Velnara asked. Major Rodriguez's expression was grim. "Commander, you are about to become humanity's ambassador to the galaxy. Your mission is to convince every major species to participate in the largest cooperative effort in galactic history, and you have to do it before the dark energy wave makes the choice for them." The next 6 months passed in a blur of desperate activity, as Zekthar and his team worked with humanity's digital guardians to contact civilizations across the galaxy. The response was exactly what the humans had predicted: fear, suspicion, and political maneuvering that threatened to doom everyone involved. The Nexari collective initially refused to believe that the dark energy wave existed, claiming it was a human trick designed to gain control over galactic governments. The Stellar Federation demanded proof that the dimensional stabilizers would actually work before committing any resources. The Hive worlds wanted guarantees that their territories would be protected first before helping anyone else. Dr. Elena Martinez worked tirelessly alongside Zekthar to provide evidence and answer questions. Her digital form appeared in government chambers across the galaxy, as she presented scientific data and historical records. But convincing politicians and military leaders required more than just facts. "They don't trust us because they never really understood us," Elena explained during one of their strategy sessions. "Humans were always different from other species in ways that made everyone else uncomfortable, Captain." Lisa Hayes had been working with diplomatic corps from dozens of worlds to arrange a grand assembly on the neutral world of Kepler Station. "The cultural archives are helping," she reported. "When species see how their own histories connect with others, they become more willing to cooperate. But we need something more dramatic to overcome centuries of mistrust. The breakthrough came when Dr. Kate Wilson detected massive gravitational disturbances in the outer rim of the galaxy. The dark energy wave had consumed 3 more star systems in the past month, and its effects were becoming visible to anyone with proper sensors. Fear accomplished what diplomacy could not. Emergency sessions were called in every major government as the reality of the threat became undeniable. Zekthar found himself testifying before the Vorthak High Command, while his teammates did the same for their own peoples. The humans had prepared detailed presentation materials for each species, customized to address their specific concerns and cultural values. The stabilizers require precise coordination, Major Sam Rodriguez explained to the assembled leaders on Kepler Station. Each facility must be activated within a 37-hour window, or the network will fail completely. This means that every species must commit their best technical teams to work together without reservation. The Zephyrian delegate, Songwind, had become one of the strongest supporters of the project after experiencing her ancestral music in the archives. My people volunteer to coordinate the communication networks between facilities, she announced. Zephyrian telepathic abilities can maintain real-time contact across galactic distances. Dr. Velnara stepped forward to represent the Nexari Collective. We will provide computational support for the activation sequences. Our crystalline networks can handle the mathematical calculations required to synchronize 47 facilities simultaneously. Other species began volunteering their unique abilities as they realized the scope of cooperation required. The insectoid hive worlds offered their unmatched organizational skills. The energy beings of the corona systems promised to provide power regulation for the most demanding systems. Even the normally isolationist deep space nomads agreed to transport personnel and equipment between facilities. But the real test came when they attempted the first practice activation at the Earth facility. Jake Thompson had spent weeks training mixed teams of technicians from different species to work together on procedures that required split-second timing. The results were initially disastrous. The Nexari think too slowly for real-time adjustments, complained a Vorthak engineer. And the Zephyrians keep trying to sing their instructions instead of using proper technical language. Ben Carter had anticipated these problems and developed training programs that taught different species to work with each other's natural abilities, rather than fighting against them. The Nexari process information more thoroughly than other species, he explained. Let them handle the complex calculations while others focus on rapid response tasks. Dr. Amy Foster materialized beside the training equipment wearing the lab coat of humanity's former chief scientist. Her specialty had been biological, adaptation technology, and she had designed interface systems that allowed different species to communicate more effectively during high-stress situations. The humans built redundancy into every system, she explained as she activated translation protocols. If one species cannot perform a task, there are always alternatives available. The key is recognizing each other's strengths instead of focusing on limitations. The training sessions gradually improved as teams learned to mesh their different capabilities. Zephyrian telepathy allowed instant communication between distant team members. Nexari computational power provided real-time error checking for critical calculations. Vorthak physical strength handled equipment that would be impossible for other species to move. But time was running short. The dark energy wave had accelerated again, and now threatened to reach the core worlds within 18 months. Dr. Wilson's monitoring equipment detected increasing instability in local spacetime that suggested the wave's effects were spreading faster than previous calculations had predicted. We cannot wait for perfect cooperation, Major Rodriguez announced during an emergency planning session. The activation must happen within the next 3 months or the window of opportunity will close permanently. The final preparations were a testament to what galactic civilization could accomplish when it truly worked together. Supply ships from a dozen different species carried exotic materials to remote facilities. Scientific teams shared research that had been kept secret for centuries. Military forces that had been enemies just months before now coordinated to protect the activation sites. Elena had spent the last weeks preparing for what she knew would be her final task. The activation sequence required a level of coordination that only the human AI guardians could provide, but the process would drain their power reserves completely. They would survive just long enough to ensure the network functioned properly. "Are you ready?" Zekthar asked as they stood before the Earth facility's master control panel. "We have been ready for 300 years," Elena replied with a smile. "This is what we were built for." Jake appeared beside the manual override controls while Ben took position at the communication station. Dr. Wilson and Major Rodriguez coordinated with teams at the other 46 facilities, while Dr. Foster monitored the biological interface systems that would allow organic beings to interact with human technology. Captain Lisa Hayes opened communication channels to every participating government and military force. "All facilities report ready for activation," she announced. "Countdown begins in 60 seconds. As the countdown reached its final moments, Zekthar looked around at the mixed teams of beings from across the galaxy working together with perfect coordination. Forthak warriors stood beside Nexari scholars while Zephyrian pilots shared control stations with Hive World technicians. This is what humanity wanted, he realized, not just to save the galaxy but to show us what we could become. The countdown reached 0, and Elena placed her energy hand on the activation control. Across the galaxy, 47 facilities began the most complex technological operation in galactic history. The dimensional stabilizer network was coming online, powered not just by human engineering but by the cooperation of species that had learned to see each other as partners rather than competitors. "Activation sequence initiated," Dr. Wilson reported as energy readings spiked across her displays. "All facilities responding. Network synchronization beginning." The real test was just beginning, but already the galaxy had accomplished something that many had thought impossible. They had united not in conquest or domination, but in the shared goal of survival and hope for the future. The dimensional stabilizer network came online with a sound like the universe itself taking a deep breath. Across 47 facilities scattered throughout the galaxy, teams of mixed species worked in perfect harmony, as exotic energy flowed through systems that humanity had spent centuries designing. The air itself seemed to vibrate with power as spacetime began to solidify around each stabilizer node. Dr. Kate Wilson watched her displays with growing excitement as the network synchronized. "Power levels holding steady across all facilities," she reported. "Dimensional anchors are forming stable matrices. The wave should hit our outer perimeter sensors within the next 6 hours." Elena Martinez stood beside the master control panel as her energy form began to flicker slightly. The power drain of coordinating such a massive operation was taking its toll on the human AI systems, but she showed no sign of concern. "All teams maintain current positions," she broadcast to the galaxy-wide network. "Remember your training and trust your teammates." The first sign of the dark energy wave's approach appeared on long-range sensors as a distortion in space itself. Stars began to wink out one by one as the wave consumed everything in its path, leaving behind regions of absolute nothingness where matter and energy could no longer exist. Zekthar monitored the approaching destruction while coordinating with teams across the galaxy. The Zephyrian telepathic network allowed instant communication between all facilities, while Nexari computational power continuously adjusted the stabilizer parameters to match the wave's changing characteristics. "Wave contact in 30 minutes, reported Songwin from the communication station. "All facilities are reporting optimal performance. The network is holding." Jake Thompson worked frantically to maintain the mechanical systems as the facility's power requirements pushed every component beyond its design limits. "The humans really did think of everything," he muttered as backup systems automatically engaged to compensate for failing primary circuits. Even dying, they were still planning for success. Ben Carter coordinated the biological interface systems that allowed organic beings to safely interact with the advanced human technology. "The cultural integration protocols are working perfectly," he announced with pride. "Different species are not just cooperating, they are truly understanding each other for the first time." At the Nexari facility in the crystalline sector, Dr. Velnara worked alongside human AI Major Rodriguez to fine-tune the mathematical calculations that kept the network synchronized. Her 8 legs moved rapidly over control surfaces, while her crystalline brain processed equations that would have taken other species years to solve. "The humans were correct about cooperation," she transmitted to the network. "Each species contributes something essential that others cannot provide. We are stronger together than any of us could be alone." The dark energy wave struck the outer stabilizer nodes with the force of collapsing galaxies, but the dimensional anchors held firm. Where the wave had previously consumed everything in its path, it now encountered barriers of stabilized spacetime that refused to break down. The wave's advance slowed, then stopped, then began to dissipate as its energy was absorbed and redirected by the stabilizer network. "It's working," Dr. Amy Foster reported, as her monitoring systems tracked the wave's collapse. "The dimensional framework is holding. The wave is losing coherence and breaking apart into harmless radiation." Across the galaxy, teams celebrated as they watched their sensors confirm what seemed impossible. The unstoppable force that had destroyed Earth and dozens of other worlds was finally being stopped by the cooperative efforts of species that had learned to work as one. But the victory came at a cost that everyone had known was inevitable. The human AI guardians had expended their power reserves completely in the effort to coordinate the network activation. One by one, their energy forms began to fade as their system shut down permanently. "Do not grieve for us," Elena said as her form became translucent. "We accomplished exactly what we were designed to do. The galaxy is safe, and you have learned that cooperation is not just possible, but natural when you remember that diversity is strength." Jake Thompson was the next to fade, but not before ensuring that all maintenance protocols were transferred to the organic teams that would keep the facilities running. "Take care of what we built," he said with his characteristic smile. "And remember that even the smallest contribution matters when everyone works together." Captain Lisa Hayes used her final moments to establish permanent diplomatic protocols that would govern the ongoing cooperation between species. "The cultural archives will remain open to all," she announced. "Let them remind you that every civilization has something valuable to contribute to the whole." Dr. Wilson transferred her complete technical knowledge to the mixed teams that would maintain the stabilizer network for generations to come. "The technology will last for millennia if properly maintained," she said. "But more important than the machines is what you have learned about working together." Major Rodriguez ensured that the military coordination protocols were properly documented and transferred to the Galactic Defense Forces. "Strength comes not from weapons or armies, but from the willingness to stand together against common threats," he said as his form began to fade. Ben, Carter, and Dr. Foster worked together to establish educational programs that would teach future generations about the importance of cooperation and cultural understanding. "Never forget what you have accomplished here," they said in unison. "You have proven that the galaxy can unite when it matters most." Elena was the last to fade, standing beside the master control panel that would continue operating automatically for thousands of years. "This is what humanity leaves behind," she said quietly. "Not monuments to our greatness, but tools for yours. The stabilizer network will protect you from cosmic threats, but the cooperation you have learned will protect you from yourselves." As the last human AI consciousness faded away, Zekthar found himself standing in a chamber filled with beings from across the galaxy who had learned to see each other as family rather than strangers. The immediate crisis was over, but the larger work of building a truly united galactic civilization was just beginning. "What do we do now?" asked Songwind as she looked around at the mixed teams that had saved the galaxy. "We honor their gift," Zekthar replied. "We maintain the network, we preserve the archives, and we remember what they taught us about the power of working together." In the months that followed, the galactic governments established the Terran Memorial Foundation to oversee the stabilizer network and cultural archives. The foundation was governed jointly by representatives from every participating species, ensuring that no single group could control humanity's legacy. The annual Unity Day celebration was established to commemorate not just the defeat of the dark energy wave, but the moment when galactic civilization learned to see itself as a single family of diverse peoples. Children from dozens of different worlds grew up learning about human culture, alongside their own traditions, understanding that cooperation and diversity were the foundations of a strong society. Dr. Velnara became the first director of cultural studies, overseeing the ongoing research into the connections between different civilizations that the humans had documented. "Every discovery we make in the archives reveals new ways that our peoples are connected," she explained to students from across the galaxy. "The humans saw patterns that we missed because we were too focused on our differences." The dimensional stabilizer network continued to operate flawlessly, protecting the galaxy from cosmic threats while serving as a permanent reminder of what could be accomplished through cooperation. But more importantly, the galaxy had learned something that no technology could provide: the knowledge that diversity and unity were not opposites but two sides of the same strength. Zeka. They are often returned to the Earth facility to visit the chamber where humanity's greatest gift had been revealed. The cultural archives continued to operate automatically, sharing their treasures with anyone who wished to learn. But the real treasure was not in the stored knowledge but in the living example of cooperation that continued to grow stronger with each passing year. Standing in the chamber where he had first met Elena Martinez, Zekthar understood what humanity had truly left behind. It was not just the technology or the archives or even the salvation of the galaxy. It was the proof that even in extinction, love and sacrifice could echo across the stars forever, teaching others that the greatest legacy anyone could leave was hope for those who came after.